Hi, thank you for coming this afternoon. My name is Gladys Jimenez. I'm going to speak about my personal journey with art and spirit and give you an insight into an artist's life. I will open with a quote by Khalil Gibran from his book, The Prophet, where he wrote, "Your joy is your sorrow unmasked." Then he goes on to say, "The deeper that sorrow carves into your being, the more joy you can contain." I feel his words pretty much sets the table for my talk. Let me give you a bit of a background about me. I was always a creative person. Growing up, I was very curious, and creating was something that felt good. Art was always my favorite part of school. When I was in sixth grade, we had an art docent that would come in once a month, and she would give us an art lesson, and we will create an art project. During that time, I had speech therapy, and there was a lady, her name was Ruth, that would come once a week and would take me out of the classroom for an hour and work with me. I treasure my time with Ruth. Through her, I discovered that I love reading. She introduced me to board games like Monopoly and Life, and we talked about simple things in life. You see, even though I was born in LA, I grew up in Mexico until I was 9. When I came back to LA, I didn't speak English. I was very shy, and I really didn't have any friends. But Ruth, she made me feel special. At the end of the first semester before Christmas vacation, Ruth gave me a beautiful fairy tale book and told me it was our last time together. I felt sad that I was not going to see her again. And I treasure that book she gave me even now. Then January came, and it was my first art class since the holidays, and Ruth came to my classroom so we could meet. My teacher asked me if I wanted to go with Ruth or if I wanted to finish my artwork. I thought maybe I misunderstood Ruth, that our last time together she meant it was our last meeting before the holidays. So thinking she will come back the following week, I decided to stay and finish my artwork. When the following week Ruth didn't show up, I realized that I was not going to see her again, and I wished I had gone with her instead of choosing art. Khalil Gibran wrote, "Your soul is oftentimes a battlefield upon which your reason and your judgment wage war against your passion." I believe this was the first time in my life that I felt regret in choosing art over someone. Fast forward to high school. The only 4 classes I had in my senior year were art. I was the one creating posters for the football team and events in school. I created the programs for the theater department. I had a design class and created the school mural for that year. I knew what I wanted to do when I went to college. I wanted to be an art teacher. I thought that would be the perfect job for me. Sometimes things happen in life that we can't control. That summer, I graduated from high school in 1981, and I was 17, and I became homeless. I had been working part-time through high school, so I had a car to live in. When I found myself without a home, I felt I needed to work full-time so I could afford the bare necessities and survive. I went to work full-time and decided to take business classes at night because I felt I could do better financially with a business degree. I thought I had no choice but to focus on surviving. But looking back, this was probably my second regret, choosing survival over art. Quickly, things turned around as they always do. I found a place to live, worked a lot, and saved all I could so I could follow my other passion, travel. In the summer of 1985, I backpacked through Europe for 2 months by myself. I went to England, France, Italy, Spain, Austria, Switzerland, Germany, Greece, Amsterdam. I saw the Sistine Chapel in the Vatican City, the Louvre in Paris, and the work of Van Gogh in Amsterdam. But it wasn't until I was at the Rijksmuseum in Amsterdam that I was taken back with the Dutch painters. There was something about the detail they put into their work that drew me in. It was there that I fell in love with the work of Johannes Vermeer. He only did 13 paintings or so, but the detail he put into them fascinated me. His painting, The Milkmaid, just pulled me in, and I remember staring at that painting for a long, long time. Art does that to you. You could be walking by many different paintings, but there's one that will demand your attention, and you stop, and there's something in that painting that not only touches something deep within you, but it stirs it all up, and it puts you in a state of awe. Artist Brian Sherwin said, "If I can easily think of a specific works of art that have touched my soul." Frankly, a powerful work of art can easily take viewers to a level beyond the reach of written words. It can trigger an indescribable surge of emotion that facilitates change within the viewer. A connection that rocks the viewer to his or her core. This much I know to be true. Art has the power to move people on a spiritual level. With technology, it is now believed that Vermeer used a camera oscura to create his paintings, but for me, that doesn't take away anything from his paintings. Even if he used a projector, it was still his composition, his color selection, his strokes, and above all, his energy into those paintings. Because I do believe when we create something, we infuse it with our energy. Stop and think about that for a minute. I am a creator, and I infuse my energy into my artwork. I can feel it, and others can feel it. But I'm also a creation. Therefore, I must be infused with the energy of my Creator, and every single one of you as well. Isn't that awesome? When I returned to LA from my trip to Europe, I knew I had to paint. I bought oil paints, canvases, brushes, and began to paint. I never had an oil painting class before, but it didn't matter. I painted. A few months later, there was a local call to artists for a jury art exhibition at the Barnsdall Municipal Art Gallery in Hollywood, less than a mile from where I lived, and I submitted my painting. I was accepted into the show. I couldn't believe it. I was so happy. On the first day of opening reception, I had a buyer for my painting. I was floored. When it came time to sell it, I couldn't do it though. I had put all of me in my painting that I felt if I sold it, I would lose part of me. Yes, this is my third regret in art, choosing attachment over letting go. I discovered that I love painting, but after a short year, I had to stop. I began to feel sick. Doctors didn't really know what was wrong with me until one day I went to a new doctor. He called me and asked me how many alcoholic drinks I was having per day. I told him I didn't drink alcohol. I'm not sure he believed me, but he told me that I had liver problems. I was 23. Unaware of the harmful effects of painting in a closed, small apartment without ventilation, using turpentine, oil paints, and sleeping in the same room where my paintings were drying. We determined that probably my painting was causing my liver problems, so I put painting on hold until I got better. I did more traveling through South America, the Caribbean, Canada, Mexico, and during one of my long trips, I met my now ex-husband. We had 2 beautiful, wonderful children, and they became my main focus, only painting occasionally. When my daughter went to kindergarten, I volunteered as the art teacher for her class, and then my son's classes, and I did that all through their elementary school years and continued even after they left for college. At the end of 2008, I went through what some call the dark night of the soul. I was in real estate most of my adult career life, and real estate was good to me financially, but I just didn't enjoy doing it anymore. It was during the time where the market changed, and I felt lost. It was a dark time. I questioned everything in my life, including if there was a God at all. I wasn't sure what the point of it all was. I felt stuck for months, unable to see the light at the end of the tunnel, that I felt I needed to talk to someone about the state I found myself in. I talked to a spiritual teacher, and after talking for a few minutes, he asked me, if you could do anything you wanted to do, what would you do? That was easy. I would paint all day. And he asked me, why don't you? I told him I didn't think I could make a living out of it. And I will never forget what he said next, because his words hit me so hard. He said, how sad that you don't believe in your art. Whoa, he was right. I didn't believe in my art enough to nurture it, to make a commitment to it, to honor its call. Martha Graham, an American dancer, said, there is vitality, a life force, an energy, a quickening that is translated through you into action. And because there's only one of you in all of time, this expression is unique. And if you block it, it will never exist through any other medium, and it will be lost. The world will not have it. It is not your business to determine how good it is, nor how valuable, nor how it compares with other expressions. It is your business to keep it yours clearly and directly, to keep the channel open. You don't even have to believe in yourself or your work. You have to keep yourself open and aware of the urges that motivate you. So in 2009, when my daughter went to university, I began to paint again consistently. Art is definitely therapeutic. I painted a huge painting I call The Dark Night, expressing how I felt during the 9 months of dark night. I did many non-objective paintings, and soon joy returned to my heart. The following year, I decided to explore other art modalities. I became a soul collage facilitator and an expressive art facilitator. But what I really wanted to do was create art. When my son went to university in 2011, I went back to college myself. I went for 2 years and took all those art classes I always wanted to take. I took drawing classes, oil painting classes, and color theory. Oh my land, let me tell you about color theory. It blew me away because it was so much like spirit. Natural light, which is electromagnetic radiation, contains all the colors of the spectrum, but you don't see the colors with your naked eye. We only see a very small segment of visible light, except when there's a rainbow or a prism. Light is energy, and color, which has a frequency, is the product of the interaction of energy and matter. When there's an object hit by light and that object does not absorb a particular wavelength of color, the object appears to be that color because the color was not absorbed by the object, so that specific wavelength of color bounces to your eye, and then your eyes send a reflection to your brain. For instance, this red book here, it looks red to us because it is absorbing all the colors except the color red. So in reality, the book is not red. It only looks red. And we can test this because if you notice, the color red changes according to the light. If there's hardly any light, it is a different red than if the room was well lit. This reminds me of spirit. Spirit's all around us, everywhere. And though most of us cannot actually see it, it is here. And we can also see where spirit is not being fully absorbed. We can see it in the world, where there's darkness, where there's cruelty, where there's hate. When we block spirit, we feel separated from others. But when we're in spirit, we can't help but to be compassionate and kind to others. In color theory, I also learned that we have rods and cones in our eyes. These visual sensors allow us to see color. And because we're all different, even though we're all seeing the same red book, in reality, we each see it in a different shade or tint of red. In fact, there are some people that are colorblind and they can't see the colors at all. I found this to be the case in life as well. Long ago, I learned that nothing in life is like it appears to be, because we interpret things according to the filters of our experiences. How many times do we think, oh, the situation is like this or like that, or this person's not nice, only to find out with more insight and light on the situation that perhaps we were too quick to judge, and maybe we were wrong about the situation because we believed the reality in front of us based on our filters of perception. We also have psychological and emotional responses to color. When we are angry, we say, I'm seeing red, but in China, red is a lucky color. Or when we are envious, we say, I'm green with envy. But to some, green means growth and healing. It is amazing we can communicate at all because we all attach different meanings to the same situation we experience with others. In 2011, between art classes and creating my own artwork, I experienced a very strong pull to create. The fact that I experienced bliss every time I paint didn't help because sometimes I would create 10 to 12 hours a day for days until I was physically exhausted. I would forget to eat, to exercise. I neglected my business in my relationship with my boyfriend. I feel like I had missed so many years of creating, and somehow I needed to catch up. I had so many paintings in my mind that needed to be expressed. Carl Jung wrote, art is a kind of innate drive that seizes a human being and makes him its instrument. The artist is not a person endowed with free will who seeks his own ends, but one who allows art to realize its purpose through him. After a year of this routine in 2012, during the second year of art classes, I became ill. I was ill for a long time. It was a very stressful time physically and financially. But this time I was determined not to give up on my art when things got tough. When I began to paint again, most of my paintings were therapeutic. They were paintings that reflected what was going on inside me and helped me heal things I didn't even know I needed healing. We cannot heal unless there's light to show us the dark areas within us that we cannot see in ourselves. We have intuitions and mixed emotions that we don't really understand. Unless the light meets the darkness, we cannot grow. William Meader said, as an artist, my best work comes from the deepest place inside of me, which fulfills the need to create. The medium almost becomes secondary to the creation. In sports, they call it being in the zone. Sometimes the process is exhilarating, yet other times every cell is pouring into the creation, leaving the artist spent. When creating art from that spiritual perspective, there's no critique or criticism, only the process, the art, and the feeling. During this time, I also began to experiment with different mediums, including collage. When I did collage work, sometimes I could see the meaning of the images right away, but other times I would create a collage and I had no clue what it meant. I knew it meant something, so I kept those collages, and sometimes it was not until years later that I could clearly see the message of the image. Soul loves images and creating. Soul doesn't care if the artwork created is beautiful. It only cares about the process, that you let go and you listen to your body and intuition as it guides you to remain in the moment, regardless of what shows up. Elizabeth Gilbert, author of Eat, Pray, and Love, wrote in her book, Big Magic, that in the past, people believed there was a muse who would work with the artist. And if the artist decided to work with the muse, and the artist created a work of art that turned out terrible, the creator would say, "Hey, don't look at me, blame the muse." The artist didn't take the negative comments personally, which I think it was wonderful. Gilbert also said that we don't always have to agree to create with the muse, that we can say no, like I did for so many years. But the muse will go to someone else until it finds someone who will create that what needs to be expressed. When we decide to create art, I believe that there are energies that have a role in what we create. That the images and colors we choose have a message for us, whether it's clear or not. As we start to create more art, we want to share our work and we start making art for family and friends. These energies continue to influence our work. Then we slowly realize that these energies are using us as a tool to create artwork that will affect other people, whether they bring joy, peace, beauty, or even sadness to the world. They use us to express themselves. I used to think that the artwork I created was my artwork. But when this creative force, which I didn't understand at first, took over, I realized that it was not my artwork, that I was simply an instrument. This made it so much easier for me to sell my artwork because it's not meant for me to keep, but to go out into the world. French sculptor Auguste Rodin once said, "The artist enriches the soul of humanity and delights people with 1,000 shades of feeling. The artist reveals spiritual riches until then unknown and gives people new reason for loving life, new inner lights to guide them." Carl Jung said that in the collective unconscious there are universal energies he called archetypes that affect us. He gave these archetypes names so we could understand them better. These archetypes transcend culture, and we become conscious of them through images or events in the world. For instance, the archetype of the mother. All cultures recognize the energy of the mother. There are symbolic archetypes like light versus darkness. Light usually suggests hope, renewal, or illumination. Darkness implies the unknown, ignorance, or despair. By the way, a good painting has both dark and light. Some believe, like Carolyn Myss, that when we are born, we come with 12 archetypes, one for each of our astrological houses, and that these energies work with us and influence us more than any other type of archetypes. We live in a world of form that begins in a metaphysical world. Everything that has form has a frequency. We talked about light before. Light has properties of both particle and waves. Light particles called photons radiate from their source in a wave pattern. Light waves have a crest and a throw, ups and downs. A wavelength is measured by the distance between the two crests and the amplitude, how deep it is. Other ways of measuring light is by frequency and energy measured in electrovolts. Shorter wavelengths are higher in frequency and higher in energy. Longer wavelengths have lower frequency and lower energy. Basically, everything's made out of waves. Life is a wave. The atom that constitutes matter is only energy vibrating at a different pattern, and it's not solid at all. You would get the illusion that it's solid. Our reality is made up of illusion. Like color, we all vibrate at different frequencies. When we are feeling lighter, we are identifying with the metaphysical part of us. When we are at a higher frequency, which is radiational, expanding, and when we are feeling low in frequency, we're identifying with our physical part, that is gravitational mass, so we feel heavier. High frequencies states are gratitude, joy, love, forgiveness, compassion. Lower frequency states are guilt, anger, frustration. Every single thought we have creates a chemical, a feeling in the body we call an emotion. Emotions trigger our mind into a negative state, but gratitude is the antidote to lift us up. Did you know that it's physically impossible to feel stress in a state of gratitude? To recap, art is a doorway to states of bliss and joy, but also sorrow, because it is healing, and healing and growing is painful. That's why it takes courage to create. I have learned that pain in itself is pure. Somehow when we were growing up, we learned that pain was bad, that it was to be avoided. But pain can be very cleansing if you don't attach a story to it. Like, oh, why is this happening to me? Which is when we create suffering. But if we can dwell in the pain without judgment, we can see that it has a purpose. Pain is not happening to us, but for us, so that it can purify us of everything we need to let go. As everything happens so we can awaken to a deeper love. Artist William Meader said, "Spiritual creativity will always emerge when one aspires to live according to divine intention. The art represents the ancient process used to create outer forms according to the will and intention of the soul itself. It requires that one reach outward to sense the soul's creative intention, then find the means to outwardly apply what it sensed. In truth, art is translating that which is vertically perceived into that which is horizontally expressed." My art journey has been a long one, with many highs as well as many lows. Life is a wave indeed, and only when I'm dead will it be a flat line. So I have learned to be comfortable with the uncomfortable and not to take my thoughts so seriously. I personally don't know of anything else that I can be completely absorbed and lost in, yet be fully present to what I'm doing than when I'm creating. Wassily Kandinsky, in his book Concerning the Spiritual in Art, stated, "In each picture is a whole lifetime imprisoned, a whole lifetime of fears, doubts, hopes, and joys. To harmonize the whole, it is the task of art." Khalil Gibran describes my journey best when he wrote about love in his book, The Prophet. After reading it, I had to substitute the word love for creativity because this is what I felt I went through. This is how it reads. "When creativity beckons to you, follow it, though its ways are hard and steep. And when its wings enfold you, yield to it, though the sword hidden among its pinions may wound you. And when it speaks to you, believe in it, though its voice may shatter your dreams, as the north wind lays waste the garden. For even as creativity crowns you, so should it crucify you. Even as it is for your growth, so it is for your pruning. Even as it ascends to your height and caresses your tenderness branches that quiver in the sun, so should it descend to your roots and shake them in their clinging to the earth. Like sheaves of corn, it gathers you unto itself. It threshes you to make you naked. It sifts you to free you from your husk. It grinds you to whiteness. It kneads you until you are pliant. And then it assigns you to the sacred fire, that you may become sacred bread for God's sacred feast. All these things should creativity do unto you, that you may know the secrets of your heart, and in that knowledge become a fragment of life's heart. But if in your fear you will seek only creativity's peace and creativity's pleasure, then it's better for you to cover your nakedness and pass out of creativity's threshing floor into the seasonless world, where you shall laugh, but not all your laughter, and weep, but not all your tears. Creativity gives not but itself and takes not but from itself. Creativity possesses not, nor will it be possessed, for creativity is sufficient unto creativity. When you create, you should not say, God is in my heart, but rather, I am in the heart of God. And think not that you can direct the course of creativity, for creativity, if it finds you worthy, directs your course. Creativity has no other desire but to fulfill itself. But if you create and must needs have desires, let these be your desires. To melt and be like a running brook that sings its melody to the night. To know the pain of too much tenderness. To be wounded by your own understanding of creativity. And to bleed willingly and joyfully. To wake at dawn with a winged heart and give thanks for another day of creating. To rest at noon hour and meditate creativity's ecstasy. To return home at eventide with gratitude, and then to sleep with a prayer for the beloved in your heart and a song of praise upon your lips. If you make art part of your spiritual practice, you will slowly learn to surrender to a process greater than yourself, and you will loosen the need to control. Art will demand your engagement, that you bring all your experiences to the table so you can have an intimate relationship with yourself, because art will reflect your light and your darkness. Elizabeth Gilbert in Big Magic, she wrote, creativity is sacred and it is not sacred. What we make matters enormously and it doesn't matter at all. We toil alone and we're accompanied by spirits. We are terrified and we are brave. Art is a crushing chore and a wonderful privilege. Only when we are at most playful can divinity finally get serious with us. I would like to invite you to explore your creativity, whether it's painting, singing, writing, poetry, gardening, decorating your home, whatever takes you to that place where you are content, where you lose track of time and you forget the outside world. As it is there that you will discover a part of you that has been waiting for you. Thank you.